I'm 80 years old, and I need to tell you something that nobody told me when I was your age. I thought being a perfect wife was the most important thing I could do. I thought it meant he would love me more, that I'd be happy. I was wrong. I wasted 55 years trying to earn something I already had. 55 years of making myself smaller, quieter, more convenient. And you know what I got for it? Resentment, exhaustion, a stranger staring back at me in the mirror. But 5 years ago, I found something that showed me exactly what I'd done to myself. And I need to tell you before it's too late for you. When I was 25, in 1970, I got married. Different times, you understand? My mother took me aside the week before the wedding and said, "A good wife keeps her husband happy." She handed me a little notebook where she'd written down rules. Always have dinner ready. Don't complain. Don't burden him with your problems. I wore white lace that day, carried yellow roses, smiled for the camera. I remember standing at that altar thinking this was the beginning of my real life. I wasn't unhappy. Not exactly. But there was always this voice in the back of my head asking, "Is this it?" Here's what nobody tells you about those early years. At first, it seemed harmless. Small things. Little compromises that any married person makes. He liked the house quiet when he came home from work, so I stopped playing music during the day. I used to love dancing around the kitchen to old records. He preferred meat and potatoes, plain food, so I stopped cooking the spicy dishes I loved, the recipes my grandmother taught me. He needed the car on Saturdays for golf with his buddies, so I stopped making plans with my friends. Maybe later, I thought, when things settle down. So I waited. The years started blending together. Wake up, make breakfast, clean the house, have dinner ready by 6, smile, go to bed, wake up and do it again. I told myself I was building something. A good marriage, a stable home. I told myself this was what love looked like. 55 years. That's more than half my life. More than most people get on this entire earth. Gone. Not to adventure or passion or even mistakes I chose for myself. Let me tell you what happened when I was 35. I got accepted into a teaching program at the local college. Night classes, twice a week. I'd applied in secret, almost as a joke, not thinking I'd actually get in, but I did. I was so excited. I remember my hands shaking when I opened that acceptance letter. I felt like someone had turned a light on inside me that had been off for 10 years. I told him at dinner, made his favorite pot roast first, thought it would soften the news. He looked at me like I'd said something foolish. "Who's going to make dinner?" he asked. Not congratulations. Not I'm proud of you. Just who's going to make dinner? Then who's going to be here when I get home? I tried to explain that it was only 2 nights a week, that I'd prep meals ahead, that this was important to me. He didn't yell. That would have been easier somehow. He just looked disappointed, hurt, like I was being selfish. I withdrew my application the next day. Maybe when the kids are older, I thought, when they're in school full-time and don't need me as much. So I waited. I thought maybe now was the time. I was wrong again. But when the kids were in school, there were teacher meetings and soccer practice, dance recitals. My daughter needed help with her science project. My son broke his arm and needed extra attention. The years kept moving and I kept waiting. So I waited again. At 45, my youngest left for college. I walked through that empty house the first day and I didn't know what to do with myself. The silence was so heavy I thought I might drown in it. His mother got sick. Dementia. She needed round-the-clock care and he looked at me with those tired eyes. "You're so good at this," he said. "I don't know what we'd do without you. We can't afford a facility." So I took care of her, changed her clothes, fed her. Reminded her who I was every single day while she forgot. I did that for 6 years. Maybe after she's gone, I thought, maybe then I'll have time for myself. At 55, she passed away. I was 55 years old and I thought, finally, I can breathe. I can figure out who I am outside of wife, mother, caretaker. But by then, it was just habit. Decades of habit. He expected dinner at 6. Expected his clothes ironed and hung in the closet just so. Expected me to manage his mother's estate, handle the paperwork. Expected me to say yes. And I did. Because I'd spent 30 years becoming the woman he expected. I'd look in the mirror sometimes and not recognize myself. Where did that 25-year-old go? The one who laughed loud and had opinions about everything? The one who wanted to teach, who dreamed of seeing the world. Maybe after he retires, I thought. So I waited one more time. And here's the part that still haunts me. He retired at 67. I thought this was it. This was our time. But retirement for him meant more time at home, more meals to cook, more messes to clean, more of his friends coming over for cards while I served drinks and appetizers. He'd gotten comfortable, and why wouldn't he? I'd spent 55 years making sure he was comfortable. The kids grew up and moved across the country. They called on holidays, sent cards on birthdays. When they visited, they stayed in hotels. Said our house made them feel like kids again, and not in a good way. My friends, the ones I'd kept putting off, most of them had stopped calling. They'd built lives without me. Book clubs and travel groups and volunteer work. They'd invited me for years and I'd always said, maybe next time. That's how you disappear. One small yes at a time. This is the part I still think about at night. When I was 75 years old, my husband had a heart attack. Massive one. Survived it, thank God, but it was close. Touch and go for 3 days. I sat in that hospital waiting room and I realized I was terrified. Not just of losing him, but of what it would mean. I didn't know who I was without him. After 50 years of marriage, I'd built my entire identity around being his wife. He came home after 2 weeks. Doctors said he needed to reduce stress, take it easy, eat better. I became his nurse, made sure he took his medications, monitored his diet, drove him to appointments. And one day, while he was napping, I was cleaning out some boxers in the garage, looking for his old medical records. There, in a box of old photos and papers, yellowed with age, I found a letter. A letter he'd written me before we got married. I'd forgotten it existed. I sat down on that cold garage floor and I read it. In it, he talked about my laugh, how it filled up a room, called me bold, said he loved how opinionated I was, said he loved that I challenged him, made him think differently, said he couldn't wait to see what I'd do with my life because he knew it would be something amazing. Those words hit me like cold water. That girl he'd fallen in love with, I'd buried her. I cried so hard I thought I might break apart. I'd spent 55 years trying to be perfect for him, trying to be the woman I thought he wanted. And I'd killed the woman he'd actually loved. He came home from the hospital and life went back to normal. But I couldn't stop thinking about that letter. One morning, about 3 months after his heart attack, I didn't make his coffee. I just sat at the kitchen table with my hands folded. He came in, looking for his mug, and stopped when he saw me. "You okay?" he asked. I said, "I need to tell you something." And I told him I was lonely. Told him I'd disappeared somewhere along the way. Told him about the teaching program I'd given up. About my friends I'd lost. About all the things I'd swallowed down for 55 years. He looked genuinely confused. "But you're happy," he said. "You never said anything." And that's when I saw it clear. He'd thought I wanted this life. Because I'd never told him otherwise. Those 55 years are gone. I will never get them back. I'll never know what kind of teacher I would have been. Never see Paris. Never know what friendships I could have built. 7 years of living differently doesn't erase 55 years of erasing myself. So let me tell you what I wish someone had told me at 25. Things changed after that conversation. Slowly, we started talking. Really talking, for the first time in maybe 30 years. I told him about that letter. He cried when he read it again. I started saying no. Small things at first. I told my daughter I couldn't babysit every single weekend. She was upset, called me 3 times. But I held firm. I took a painting class at the senior center. Watercolors, like I used to do when I was young. I'm terrible at it now. My hands shake and the colors bleed together. But they're mine. Every brushstroke is a choice I made for myself. I reconnected with my old friend Margaret. We'd been close in college, lost touch after I got married. We meet for coffee now, once a week. She brings me books. We talk about everything I'd forgotten I cared about. I bought clothes I actually liked. Bright colors instead of beige and navy. A red dress. A purple scarf. Yellow shoes that made me smile every time I put them on. And you know what? The world didn't end. People adjusted. They had to. I see women your age making the same choices I made back then. If you want to go back to school, go. Do it now. If you want to change careers, change. Do it now. If there's a place you want to see, book the ticket. Don't wait until retirement. If you're in a relationship that makes you feel small, leave. Don't wait 55 years like I did. But what about my family? What about my responsibilities? You can be a good person and still have boundaries. You can love them deeply and still have a life of your own. Your life is not a practice run. You think you have time. You don't. Later never comes. I've been living for myself for only 5 years out of 80, or those 55 years wasted. No one will give you permission to live your own life. Your younger self is depending on you. Your older self is begging you from this chair now. The choice is yours alone. But make it now because time doesn't wait for anyone standing still. If this resonates with you deep in your chest, I hope you'll share it wide. Not for me in this old house, but for every woman who needs to hear this truth plain. The permission is granted right here. Now go live before dusk falls.